racing is just the biggest adrenaline rush, like from all the jumps to different like obstacles on the track, if you will. Like there's a lot of different things you have to overcome. When you're racing, you just gotta be fearless. 2014, my cousin Ryder moved down from California, and my parents bought him a dirt bike because like he raced in California, and after I saw that, I was kind of just hooked on it. It was inspiring. For the last couple summers, I've been racing nonstop. I even went to online school at one point in my life just to race. I definitely see myself continuing racing eventually, more than I'm doing now. Practice is really just the best way to work yourself up. My favorite part about racing is the community. Everybody out there is really fun, really nice to talk to, and everybody just likes to have a good time. Mason Maddox, one of my good friends, I met him through racing. Like, we're still friends to this day, and we've been racing competitively for a couple years now. One time I overshot a jump at a track called Motivated, and I got myself a concussion. I woke up in the hospital. Like, I knocked myself out completely. And it's definitely scary sometimes to go back to that place and see that same jump. My biggest achievement is there's a series called the Ultra Series, and I got second place in both those classes, and that's pretty much the whole Southeast region. I definitely do want to ride a lot more than I do right now, and I'd like to try to compete professionally, but that's a journey.
You get that fun of just catching them. There's nothing more, just setting the hook and throwing it back in the water and catching more. I mean, it's just something you gotta love to do. You got all kinds of fish styles. You got bass fishing, catfishing. Really, I mean, any type of fishing, really. Catch anything in the water. Personally, favorite kind is bass fishing, is because you're like constantly casting the rod. You're not just having to sit there all like just bored. I started fishing when I was a little kid with my dad. We always came here to Crowfield Lake, always just brim fish and catfish. But then when I started doing it by myself, it was really just bass fishing because I just really enjoyed catching fish. My favorite time to fish is the fall because it's nice and cool. You don't break a sweat fishing. It's really enjoyable. You don't mind being out in nature, just casting a rod. I personally don't use really much tools besides like my fishing rod, and I might have like a pack of bait or rubber worms in my pocket. But I mean, you have pliers you can use to get the hook out of the mouth, or gloves, but really none of that's really necessary. You just have to know how to cast a rod. I mean, there's nothing much to it. You just gotta like doing it. The biggest fish I've caught is a 12-pound bass. I have the mount in my house. I mean, that thing put up a really big fight. It's just always fun when you catch this big fish like that. One of the safety precautions I realize is make sure when you're fishing you watch where you step, because a lot of times there's gators you don't even see, and there's snakes, a lot of snakes, water moccasins, and a lot of ant hills by the water. When you're trying to find a good spot, especially during the spawn, you want to look for a lot of beds. That's where the fish, they come when they mate. They sit on these beds, and when you see a lot of old beds, that means there's a lot of fish in the area, and a lot of structure like fallen branches or fallen trees in the water, stuff like that. Sometimes I just call it a day. I mean, I don't really have bad fishing days, really. I always catch big ones.
What comes to your mind when you hear the word beautiful?
Well,
Well, in my head, it's more imaginary. Like, there's no real definition of beauty because it changes from person to person.
I think of mental beauty, not physical beauty.
for me, the mentality of that person is what makes them truly beautiful. It's all about the personality. Someone may be super attractive, but they could be a total jerk.
How do we determine beauty? Is it by the way we sound, the way we are, the way